the red button.
All right.
All right, cool. This is the vehicle right here. It's fairly new. It's only 2 years old. So the complaint is, well, there's really no complaint. It's just they wanted to verify that the brakes needed to be done. So we're gonna go ahead and do that today. We're gonna take off the wheels first. All right, the concern is low brake pads. So we're gonna go ahead and inspect that right now. What I do have is what we call brake gauges. It's the fingers where it determines where your pad is at. A good pad being 12 millimeter, 10 millimeter, brand new, is in the green. Anything in the yellow is a warning. Red is immediately like you need to replace your brake pads. Right now, if you can look over here, we're gonna see this inside pad. So we're gonna determine where it's at right now. And right now, this front inside pad is at 5 millimeter. So a little bit, I would say a little bit more than halfway gone. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the brakes for the customer. I guess this is his son's vehicle, so we wanna go ahead and make sure he has new brake pads on there with new rotors. So yeah, gonna take care of that. First things first, what people don't know really is on a brake job, I always like to use this tool here. It's called an impact driver. And there's two fasteners. Usually there's two, but on this vehicle right here has one, which you can't do it really because it's impacted on there. So this here is a tool for it. It's called an impact driver. So you put it on your fastener, give it a little love tap, like bam. So that's loosened up. To my tools. All right, for this job right here, we're gonna be doing right here. This is a 12 millimeter for this bolt right here on this caliper. We're gonna go ahead and remove that. Take care of that. 12 millimeter bolt. Here we go. Put it aside. Go ahead and lift the caliper. It does have these little what they do is they separate the brake pad so it's not in constant contact with the actual rotor itself, which gives you more life as far as the brake pad goes. Just want to go ahead and remove those. Bam and bam. Some cars have them, some cars don't. This car does. So this is the caliper itself. This is the piston that comes out as your brakes wear out. This piston comes out more. And then these are the brake pads themselves. Outer pad. Inner pad, outer pad. So you can see right here, the outer pad is wore out a lot more than the inner pad. So we'll go ahead and measure. And believe me, these brakes are hot right now because the customer just got done driving the car. So we'll go ahead and measure the brake pad. This is the actual pad itself, this little piece right here. So right now, I believe this is even lower. And this one here is lower. This one here is at 4 millimeters. Okay, so that, most of the time at dealerships and stuff like that, when you go to the dealership, they'll replace your brakes like at 3 millimeter, 2 millimeter, but they're almost there. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend brake pads and rotors. We can resurface the rotor because they're fairly new, but I recommend always putting new parts on there just to avoid any issues. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take care of that. And remember, inner pads and outer pads are two different things. The inner pad has this little dial here. You see this right here? This is a brake level indicator. You know when you're driving and you start to hear that this is the thing right here that does it. Once the brake pad wears out enough, it'll start to hit this little pin, this little thing right here, and it'll start to scratch on the rotor, and that's what you're hearing all the time is that little inner pad. Remember, always has this little thing on, this little nip on it. Outer pads don't have it, as you can see. And when you're doing a brake job, you always want to do the first contact point. As the wheel spins, where does the rotor stop first? Where does the disc move first? Stops first at the top. So therefore, a correct brake job will always require this pin to be inside and at the top, depending if the caliper is on this side or that side. Therefore, it's being on the front part, so we're gonna go ahead and find the brake pad for the front. But yeah, since we're gonna do disc and rotors, we're gonna go ahead and remove the caliper right here and set it to the side because we don't need that right now. Then we're gonna go ahead and remove the caliper bracket, which is a 17mm socket. Get it right there. I'm going to take that out. And there's two. Okay, this is the bracket right here. These are the two bolts that hold the caliper bracket. And remember, always remember to tighten your stuff, torque your stuff down. Make sure, because this is very important, especially when you're dealing with brakes and people's lives. You always want to make sure that everything's done correctly. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take off this disc right here. Remove this fastener screw, which is actually holding down the actual rotor itself. So we're gonna put that down to the side. And remember, the customer just got done driving, so these rotors are scorching hot. So watch out. They're still good too. If the customer wanted to, he can save them and resurface them. So the next brake job, you don't have to buy rotors. You can just reuse these as long as they're resurfaced. So we'll put these aside. All parts today are provided by AutoZone.
All right.
So yeah, here's the disc. Here's the brand new one here. $89 for one. It's expensive, man, but if you want the job done right, the first time, not the next. People always think like, oh, just put pads on there. You know, just go ahead and put pads and it's okay. It's not okay, especially when you're dealing with the front brake system. You have most of the pressure when you're braking in the front as opposed to the rear. So I recommend, if it was my vehicle, to always replace the disc along with the brake pads. That's how we're doing it. And sometimes rotors, they come with this film over it. It's like a liquid, which it keeps the rotor from rusting. But in this case right here, this actual rotor here, it's packaged in the plastic, so it's free from debris, corrosion, and rust. So there's no need to clean it. But if it's not, clean the disc, or else you'll have issues with your brand new pads. Always clean them. But on this case, like I said, it's packaged, it's wrapped, so there's a need for that. So you come right here. You know, you always want to make sure it's the same size, you know, everything even, looks good, you know. So you want to go ahead and you're gonna put this disc, and there's a certain way to do it. Remember, only goes on one way, and that's it. What you should do, I'll say right now, I forgot to mention, but we'll do it now. Is you want to clean the surface, the hub surface where the rotor sits on. You know, you want to clean it. You know, all the little dust and rust, whatever it is. Clean it up. What a lot of people do, they put anti-seize along this area, around the back. So the next time the next guy comes to take off the next disc, in the future, it comes off easy. But it's clean. It's a brand new car, 22, so the less gunk, the better. So we put that on there. We grab our screw, fastener screw. Make sure you're putting it on correctly. The rotor is flush with the hub. Some rotors are called floating rotors, which they don't require fasteners like this one does, like Honda does. But some of them are free. They're just free to move around, but this one doesn't. This requires the rotor to actually be fastened to the hub. Next, go ahead and fasten that rotor. Like I said, it's impact driver. Give it a slight little tap. Bam. It's locked on. All right.
Hi there. How are you?
All right, doing the video. That's what it looks like right here. We have a brand new, it's called hardware, brake hardware, which most new pads, come with. The customer likes the stuff, brand new stuff. It's always good to have it, but I recommend personally, being that the vehicle is fairly new, I understand this stuff is new right here, but I believe that the old stuff from Honda is better. So I like to clean up the original stuff unless it gets bent or something like that, just to avoid issues, because I have put new stuff on, new hardware where it doesn't fit correctly, and it causes issues with as far as noise, stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do here is just go ahead and clean this hardware up a little bit. And I'm not gonna use the provided stuff here because I believe the stuff that's already on here is better. So I'll go ahead and take a rag, spray it all down. Just like that. You always want to make sure this is all free from debris, dirt, dust. That's why you need a bottle of brake clean, just like that. And make sure it's all nice and clean. And on here, there's something called a slide pin. This is what it does right here. You see this, where it moves around back and forth. The car is new, you just take it out, and there's grease on it. You want to go ahead and, it's fairly new, but you always want to re-lube the slide pins, just so the caliper can move smoothly without binding, or else you have premature brake wear and noise in the future. So there's a lot to a brake job. It's just not, putting pads on and calling it a day. So this right here is what I use right here. I guess it's called Seal Glide. This is for slide pins like this. Just want to go ahead and get some out. It's like toothpaste. You want to use a little bit of it. Just put it on there like that, and then just smooth it out. Just enough of it. Doesn't take a lot. Just takes a little bit. Tip. Just like that. And then you go ahead and insert the slide pin back into the caliper bracket. Make sure it moves freely. Sometimes it has air in it, so you just want to just open up the little rubber bushing just a little bit. Should be good. There you go. You want to take your bracket bolts, 17mm bracket bolts. Here you go. Take it back to the hub. Go ahead and put those back in. Don't worry about that. And then we'll go ahead and get these fastened down right here. And remember, like I said already, when you're doing brake jobs, it's very important to tighten everything down or you'll be in trouble. Okay, my husband has it. Bam. It's on there locked on. We got the slide pin, greased up. Back this out. Next step on this right here is this caliper right here. So in order for this caliper to go back onto the new brakes, we need to depress this piston back. So it needs to retract backwards in order for this caliper to go back onto the new pads. And we have a special tool for that. It's called a brake caliper tool. If you have one, some people use a C-clamp, which is still good, still works, but I like to be professional and use the right tools for it. So I'll take the pad, I'll insert the old pad in the caliper, make sure we have contact, take our ratchet, and we're just gonna gradually push that piston back where it should be. And sometimes you'll see brake fluid fall off from the bottom. It's only because the master cylinder is getting pushed. The piston is pushing the fluid back up. So sometimes you might have brake fluid falling down from the master cylinder, but it's okay, it happens.